The last meetup we had was on the basics of blockchain technology. It was pretty technical. This time we're going to be talking about use cases of blockchain technology, so it'll be a little bit more broad and a lot more interesting, I think. So let's see. We've got to start though, so I'm not sure if y'all know, Lisk, their HQ is in Berlin. That's where their main developers and marketing team and all that is, and they have made a nice little video to say hello to everybody. So let's see what they have to say.
Hey there guys, Ben Lindsay here from Lisk HQ in Berlin. Just wanted to do a shout out to you all meeting up in Miami. I know the Bitcoin conference is going on this week. I know tonight is going to be a great night. You know, there's going to be a lot of networking, some really good discussions planned, so I'm really looking forward to getting your feedback on that. As you know, at HQ we're really building towards the relaunch event that's happening on February 20th. A few of you guys are coming over to Berlin for it, which is going to be great, and we're looking forward to meeting you here. For those that are not going to be making the trip, we're going to have the live stream, so you can tune in via our YouTube channel, and you'll see everything there. From a marketing perspective, we're really building towards the relaunch, obviously. So we have a lot of creative that's going to be going out before and after. So stay tuned for those campaigns.
Hey guys, thanks again to Edward and Matthew for hosting this amazing meetup tonight. Our team will spend 2018 focused on growing our Lisk meetup initiative to ensure that we have many more grassroots efforts like tonight, and that won't come without support from us at Lisk HQ. We'll be providing you with updates, hands-on guidance, as well as help from our marketing team. And now for a small development update. The dev team has been working extremely hard to push out Lisk Core 1.0. For those of you new to Lisk, Core 1.0 will be our biggest release to date and will lay the foundation for a secure, modular, and scalable platform. Well, that's all the news from us.
Yeah, thanks guys, enjoy tonight, and looking forward to the year ahead. Bye.
Bye.
That was nice. So Lisk HQ or the first?
They like the idea of Miami though. They want to come enjoy the weather. Berlin's frozen.
Yes. Is there any chance they're going to come out on February 20th? That actually happens to be my birthday. So that's
So they're all going to be in Germany on February 20th. However, as you start to...
there?
Yes, I am going to be there.
Oh, fantastic. You got to
being-
send me the video.
That being said, if you go and join, we have Lisk USA Facebook group. We also have a Lisk USA Twitter. While we're in Germany, we're going to be sending a bunch of information as soon as we get it from behind the scenes to let y'all know what they're talking about and what's going on. So make sure to follow us to keep up to date with all kinds of information like that. For tonight, we're going to be talking about a few use cases, and I'm going to start off with a presentation on the most important use case and the first use case of blockchain technology. And so we're going to talk about the value of currency. So, is that someone else? Come on in. All right, so when you think of value, what do you normally think? What comes to mind?
Money.
Money, of course, right? What else? Anything else come to mind when you think of value?
Something you can exchange for
Gold, something you can exchange for something else.
Liability or asset.
Or money or asset, exactly. These are all your typical things that you would think of. And the reason I have a picture of gold up here is because for the longest time, a lot of people that considered themselves to be libertarians, a lot of people that considered themselves to be interested in money, the concept of money, they always found themselves interested in gold, because gold usually has a lot of things you think of in money. It's intrinsic value. Pretty much anywhere you go, someone will probably tell you something like gold or precious metals are valuable or worth something. And this right here, in comparison to something like gold, is called a meme. Such secure, much crypto, very pure validation. Well, if you're not familiar, this meme is called Doge. Well, this meme was invented in 2013. It was very popular. And so an individual that took this made a bunch of copies. Then other people made copies. Then more people made copies. So you would not be able to tell me if this was the first meme that was created, or the second, or the third. There's no way to verify if this is the original or if there's not. So I would consider this to be kind of the opposite of money, not worth very much at all. You can reproduce it, recreate it, there's no way to verify it. Now, what do you get when you combine a meme with gold? Well, I like to think that you get Dogecoin. Now, I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with Dogecoin, but Dogecoin was created by an individual who is a self-proclaimed troll, and he actually created Bitcoin or Dogecoin to prove the exuberance of buying something that is worthless. He wanted to prove that crypto was totally crazy, it was a big hype, and that no one would possibly buy it, no one would want it. Well, this joke of a coin just recently had almost a $1 billion market cap. A joke, mind you, of a coin. The question is, why does a joke, why does something in the blockchain space that everyone makes fun of, even the creator made fun of it and abandoned it because he didn't want it to succeed? Well, it succeeded. It was worth $1 billion. And I think the reason why is because even a joke cryptocurrency like Dogecoin is better at being money than the money that we have. Why? Because the money that we have is that terrible. Right here we have a few traits of money. Some of you may be familiar with these, some of you may not. I find that from talking to people, a lot of people actually don't know a lot about the history of money. They don't know that there's science behind money. People have been doing research on money for a long time. These first 4 traits, divisibility, portability, durability, and intrinsic value, these were first made by Aristotle. Scientists from long ago have been doing research on what is a sound money, what's good money. They sat down and decided, hey, what do you need? Well, for divisibility, can your money be divided? Can you easily split it up? Portability, can you take it somewhere? Durability, will it be destroyed while it's sitting in your safe? Intrinsic value, is there value to your money beyond it just being money? If your money was not used for anything else, could there be something you could use it for? Fungibility, is it interchangeable between itself? So a chicken, not very interchangeable between a chicken. My chicken might be fatter than your chicken, right? Yours might be skinnier. Security, counterfeit protection. Can your money be secured? Can it be counterfeited easily? Easily transacted. Can you easily go and take your money and transact it to somebody else to exchange it for something else? Scarcity, they came to find out that having scarcity in money is actually very important. You don't want to have people just printing as much money as you want. You can't plan for long-term future. You're thinking that you're going to save this money and over 10 years they print so much of it, it devalues your savings. These are things that you need to think of when you're trying to save money. And then of course we have 3 very new ones, which is sovereignty. That is, how permissionless is your money? Do you need to have permission from the government or a bank? Can you just use it yourself? Is it centralized? Is there a central authority that's controlling your money, controlling your account? And of course, smart. Can your money be programmed? Can it be changed? Well, we're going to take a quick look at gold because for several thousand years, gold was the go-to unit of exchange and of value. I mean, everyone wants to talk about the giant stone tablets on some island somewhere and all that stuff, but we're past that. For thousands of years, gold has been the standard. And as we can see, with gold, your divisibility was usually pretty low. You usually have like an image in your head of a movie or something where someone's trying to crack a gold coin with their teeth, or they have to chop it in half or something like that. Portability, it's moderate. You can carry a gold coin or a gold bar, but what if you wanted to carry a lot of gold bars or a lot of gold coins? Not very easy. Durability, well, gold is highly durable. You can have gold in your safe and it's going to stay there for, I believe the half-life is 2 billion years. So if you have it, it's not going anywhere for quite some time. Intrinsic value, well, gold is probably one of the most used resources or metals in a lot of electronic devices, computer devices. iPhones are very well known for having lots of gold in them, and the Chinese even buy iPhones in mass quantities to harvest the gold back out of them. Fungibility is interchangeable. For gold, it's usually pretty high. You can have a gold statue, and you can weigh it and change that for a gold bar. It'll be the same. Security is moderate. For most cases, you can't go and counterfeit gold, but I'm sure everyone's heard stories of people plating nickel in gold, trying to trick people, things like that. Easily transacted, low. You have a gold coin on you, I do not think you're going to be able to find many people willing to trade your goods for that. Scarcity, moderate scarcity. This is because a lot of people want to say that gold is scarce, but you actually don't know how much gold there is. And as time goes on, we find new mineral deposits, new metal deposits. They're talking about how Antarctica and the North Pole, how they're starting to melt. The first thing they want to do is start mining. They only imagine that there's tons of metals, gold, silver, that are in that ice. And if they find any large discoveries, well, that's going to disrupt how much your gold is worth. So the scarcity is moderate. And of course, sovereignty, well, to ask to use gold, you can't really just go use gold. Most of the gold is held in places like Fort Knox, large banks, the Russian government. Not anyone can just use gold.
In fact, gold has been revoked many times throughout history, including in the United States.
Yes, absolutely. And holding gold is actually illegal in several countries. It's been illegal in the United States before, and in Venezuela, for example, if you're caught with gold, they will confiscate it. Centralization, as I kind of just touched on, most of the gold is actually held in only a few locations across the world, and it's mostly held by governments, not individuals. And of course, is it smart? Well, no, you can't program gold to do anything. It's a mineral. It does exactly what it does, and that's about it. Now, we move into fiat currency. So, it's a little bit better in a few regards, especially in your first four, which are pretty important, or your first three. So it's moderately divisible. Yes, you can take $1 and you can break it down to the cent. But if you have
What's fiat?
fiat currency? Fiat currency, I guess for anybody who may not know, is any money that only has its value from a government. The backing of the government is what gives it value, because the government says that it's worth something. That's the only reason that this currency or form of currency has value. And so, for divisibility, fiat currency is usually pretty divisible, but if you have a $10 bill, you can't actually break that $10 bill down into anything. Or, let's say you want in microtransactions. Well, if you want to have a transaction less than a cent, you can't. The change doesn't break down any further than 1 cent, so you can't have a transaction that's less than a cent, because you can't replicate it. Portability is very high. Cash is one of the most easily portable types of money there is. Durability is moderate. Your money these days, it's made out of cloth. It'll stay, well, for a while, but it can burn. There's insects that'll eat it. Animals can eat it. There's lots of things that can destroy your money. Intrinsic value, very low. The only thing that gives fiat currency its value is the government that's backing it. I'm sure everyone has heard of the classic Zimbabwe dollar. They had hyperinflation. They started printing trillion-dollar notes, and then the only value it had was the cloth that made the dollar itself. People were using it to make clothing, rugs, wallpaper, all kinds of things like that. But besides that, it had no intrinsic value. Fungibility, interchangeability. Money is usually interchangeable for money very easily. You have a $10 bill, you can change it for a $10 bill. You know exactly how much it's worth. Security is moderate. Cash is pretty secure, of course. Every time you go into a store, I'm sure you see them checking a pen. These days, they'll check my $10 bills sometimes. Well, that's because there are a lot of counterfeiters that exist, and they are doing just that, counterfeiting fiat bills. And of course, easily transacted. Fiat currency and the US dollar is the most transacted currency in the world. You have US dollars, there's a good chance that your money will be accepted no matter where you go in the world, even if it's a third world country. And of course, you get down to scarcity, very low. Nobody knows how much fiat currency is in circulation. Nobody knows how much it's going to be. Everyone has heard of the Federal Reserve. They literally print money. Whenever the central bank needs money, the Federal Reserve prints more money, sends it to them. Sovereign, you don't really get to use money without permission. Your bank account can be frozen. Your credit card shut down. You might be left where only you can transact is in cash, but these days, since a lot of money, the majority of fiat money is actually a digital asset now, It's very hard to use fiat money without the permission of the bank or the government. And of course, centralization. The fiat currency is owned by a single government entity. So if that government entity feels like changing what the money does, pulling the money, printing as much of it as they want, there's nothing you can do to stop them. And of course, it's not smart at all. You can't program your money to do anything. And of course, we move over now to Bitcoin. As you can see, it's very high in everything. It's highly divisible. You can break Bitcoin down into 8 decimal places, to fractions of a cent, to be able to make the tiniest transaction if you need to. It's highly portable. You can keep millions of dollars on your cell phone. If you memorize your passphrase, you can keep millions of dollars in your head. Easily portable. As far as durability is concerned, as long as the decentralized nature of the network continues, as long as the internet exists, then you will have transactions and you will have a decentralized blockchain. So as long as the internet's going, as long as at least one node is operating on the internet, you will have the durability that you were looking for in a currency. Intrinsic value gets a little bit shakier. Some people will argue the intrinsic value of something like Bitcoin. But I think the intrinsic value comes from the ability to send a transaction to anyone in the world permissionlessly. So if you want to send money to someone in China to buy a good or service, you want to go and talk to even GoDaddy, maybe get some server space, anything you want. You can just go and you can instantly make a transaction, not have to worry about any middleman, nothing. Boom. Fungibility, is it interchangeable? Well, it's highly interchangeable. 1 Satoshi, you can see it's 1 Satoshi and you can change it for 1 Satoshi. 1 Bitcoin for a Bitcoin. Litecoin for a Litecoin. Security, well, the blockchain, especially Bitcoin, is one of the most secure networks on the entire planet. I believe right now that it is larger than any computational system on the planet. So if you wanted to try to attack the network, you would need to build a computer network larger than anything the planet has seen to even attempt to attack it. And of course, if you want to try and hack one of the codes, or let's say you wanted to try and brute force a password of Bitcoin, it would take every single computer on the planet until the sun burnt out trying to brute force one of these passwords, and it will still not solve. Completely unhackable. Easily transacted. Right now I have high because if you may not be able to go to the grocery store and give them Bitcoin for a good, but if you find somebody who does accept Bitcoin, it's very easy for them to pull out their phone, scan a QR code, or for you to scan a QR code and immediately send them a few dollars. If both of you are accepting Bitcoin, it is very easily transacted. And of course, scarcity. There's a supply set into it. There's 21 million coins. It's all there will ever be. So that way, if you're trying to plan for the future, if you're trying to make wise economic decisions, you can decide, well, if there's only going to be $21 million, maybe I can plan on what this will be worth in the future. And there won't be any surprises. You won't suddenly have an extra 21 million tokens that are created because it's built into the protocol. And of course, sovereign. It's permissionless. You can go on GitHub. It's an open source program. You can go and download any of these multiple wallets and you can begin transacting in Bitcoin. You don't need anyone to give you permission to do so. And of course, decentralization. It's highly decentralized. The entire network runs with decentralized nodes that communicate with each other across the world. So because of this, you can have an entire continent like China, or entire country rather, an entire continent, completely ban Bitcoin. They can say there's no more nodes here. Well, guess what? The rest of the network, the rest of the world, completely unaffected because it is a decentralized network. You would have to take out every single of the, I believe, 30,000 active nodes across the planet to be able to take down the entire ecosystem, which I think is highly unlikely. And of course, is it smart? This, of course, is yes, and then this is probably my favorite property of Bitcoin and blockchain technology, is that you can program it to do whatever you want. Let's say for some reason you didn't like that Bitcoin had 21 million tokens. Maybe you don't like that it takes it 10 minutes to verify transactions. Maybe you don't like some different things about it. Well, if you really want, you can just program new money. You can program a brand new blockchain, or you can even copy Bitcoin, which people have done, change a couple parameters, and now you have a brand new money. That's what we like to call smart money. as you can see here, this is the US dollar purchasing power from 1913 to 2014. So, as you can see on the left, this is an exponential chart. So you start at $1, halfway through you're at 10 cents, and then you're at 1 cent. Well, in 1933, you had FDR decided to make it illegal to hold gold bullion. So if you were a US citizen and you had gold, it was illegal. They could fine you. We actually just saw a presentation by Patrick Byrne, and one of his main points was bringing up that during this time, they don't want to tell you this, a lot of individuals were jailed for holding on to gold, and their gold was confiscated from them, stolen, taken, yes. Millions and perhaps billions of dollars today in gold taken from people. And then of course you have in 1972, is when they decided to decouple the gold standard from the dollar. So a US citizen in 1933 could no longer own gold, but foreign banks, international groups could still exchange money or fiat currency, the US dollar, for gold. But in the year 1972, that changed. They told the rest of the world, if you're holding US dollars, you're not getting anything back for it. All you get is US dollars. And as we can see, by taking away this intrinsic value, by taking away the ability to hold gold in what backed the US dollar has declined drastically in its purchasing power. In the last 100 years, it's lost almost 100% of its purchasing power around the world. So as you can see, all of these dark red areas, these places don't have a lot of account penetration. A lot of them have maybe 0 to 15% of the citizens of that area have access to financial institutions and banking institutions. For us in America and a lot of third world, or rather first world countries, it's not a big deal for us. You can kind of walk to the bank, you can walk down the street, there's going to be ATMs. It's very easy for you to get access to financial trading. I mean, you can go and get loans from, there's websites these days that you can go and get loans from very easily. So for us, it may not be quite as important to need this new type of currency, but for a lot of these people that have access to no banks and no financial institutions at all, having this new type of money that is permissionless, that anyone can use, that's fast, easily to transact, something that you know how many they're going to be, this is becoming very, very ideal or very important to these upcoming countries to begin to use. Now, as you can see here, this is the internet penetration of the world to kind of give you some comparison. So a lot of the countries, if you notice, that don't have access to a lot of financial regulation or financial companies or banking also do not have access to the internet. However, this is changing at a drastic rate. An example is that a very large CEO in India has been working on a project where he believes that he's going to have 2 billion people from India online in the next 2 years. They're putting up towers across the entire country, and they already made a deal with a cell phone company to create the world's cheapest smartphone to sell exclusively in India, just to add at least 1 billion people to the internet as quickly as possible. Now, when these people come online, we can only imagine what's going to happen to the internet, to the ecosystem, to this international community that we're building when all of these unbanked individuals suddenly have access to the internet, suddenly have access to their own banking, their own financing, the ability to get loans from people. These are all basic things that we take for granted that will soon be allowed to be used by anyone in the world. Now, talking about use cases, this was the biggest one that we were just talking about, was use cases as currency. But the currency layer is just the very first layer of blockchain technology. Satoshi Nakamoto made it to be the very base piece, but even him himself, if y'all aren't familiar, Satoshi Nakamoto is the anonymous individual who invented Bitcoin and then disappeared from the space some years ago. Well, he himself saw Bitcoin and blockchain technology being the first step in making an entirely new financial system, entirely new financial economy. So forget about integrating old systems, forget about taking them and putting them on top of it, get rid of them. Get rid of these old systems. Get blockchain banks, blockchain finance, financial groups, blockchain loans, blockchain everything. His words, I believe, were that you're going to see companies running blockchain kind of like in an engine. When you see cars going around, you don't see the engines running, but you see the car moving. His vision was that eventually we would see a lot of companies, a lot of investors, a lot of banks, things like that will start using blockchain technology.
And the first event, we gave a lot of context about Lisk and what it actually is. This time I have something more of an update from the last event. So if you guys have any question about what Lisk is, then save it for the end of the presentation. But feel free to ask them any you like. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. So at the last meetup in October, we had discussed basically everything from the ICO up until this point. And so in November, one of the first things that happened with Lisk is that they made a partnership with Expand Online. And this will help them to basically circulate the Lisk news in social media circles. And this particular company is actually involved with Microsoft, eBay, and a number of other very large clients. So for Lisk to be making a partnership with Expand Online is already a pretty nice deal. And so soon after that, the headquarters Lisk had actually been on an Asia tour. And they went to a number of locations, and it was a complete success. And so the first location on that tour was in Shanghai. Now, right around the time where they showed up in Shanghai, unfortunately, China decided to have another one of their crackdowns. So they had a little bit of fear of having a very large public blockchain meetup at the time, so they hosted a smaller event and met with some of the Lisk delegates there, the early investors, and just kind of had a much smaller event because basically everyone was afraid that it was another one of those instances where China says they're going to ban Bitcoin, basically, and so they didn't want to, go too far. They've always tried to stay within the proper regulations and reaches, and never push the limit on promising or making expectations of profits and whatnot. That's really the type of thing that will get you in trouble. And so the next stop was in Korea, and they actually had a meetup there, and then they also went on a national television station in Korea, and were able to present Lisk there. And I don't know if you guys know this, but after China has had their crackdown, Korea has become one of the major markets in cryptocurrency trading. And it's partially due to the fact that many Chinese investors have moved their trading activities to Korea, but also as a result, it's also exploding in Korea. So, this was a really important market for us to get to. They were able to demonstrate to a few different exchanges that are based there as well. And so hopefully we'll hear that Lisk has been listed on several new exchanges around Asia. Like I said, the regulatory environment, especially in China, had been pretty hairy, so some of these developments are going to be a little slow. The next thing that they did, they went to Tokyo. And Tokyo was so excited about Lisk that they had to host a secondary meetup to basically facilitate all of the people that wanted to come. And so Tokyo is very hot on Lisk apparently now. And they also apparently had an excellent trip here and ate a ton of sushi, as you saw in the first picture. And so I might want to go there myself, actually, to do a Lisk meetup. The last stop on the trip was Mumbai, India. And in Mumbai, India, it was the India Blockchain Week while they were there. And so they were able to give a speech and demonstrate what Lisk is for the second largest population of a country in the entire world. India is the second largest market next to China. So this is extremely important. Also, very recently, India has also enacted some capital controls. They recently got rid of their highest denominations of cash, mostly due to counterfeiters and other reasons, and also because they claim that the $100 bills of their equivalent were mostly used for drug sales and counterfeiting. Most of us would agree with that, right? We probably have $100 in our pocket, right? So that's exactly why people in India are looking at getting the blockchain. And so, Lisk being there, right on time, right on schedule, yet again, just like they always have. And I'll show you a few more reasons why they've always been on time, on schedule later in this presentation. So, for those of you who don't know, the network has actually been live for over a year now. And so after the first year, the block reward reduction has occurred. And so there's no longer 5 lists being generated per block. It's 4 lists now. And so effectively the inflation has been reduced by 20%. And so this will continue on schedule until it's only 1 list per block. After each year, it'll be reduced 1 per 1 until it's 1 list per block. And so at that point, the inflation will be less than 1% per year, which is pretty good actually. And so soon after that, they had the official meetup in Berlin, where they showed off a lot of different stuff and gave us some new information. The top picture up here is a group of Lisk developers, team members, family, and supporters, and I'm happy to say that all these people have really made some great contributions to the Lisk project. And down here at the bottom, this is actually the founder of Lisk, Max Kordek, giving a bit of a demonstration about the SDK. So I don't know if any of you know this, but Lisk collected their ICO when Bitcoin was under $1,000. And they were able to collect 14,000 Bitcoin in their ICO. Now, there was a specific period of time where Lisk was trying to establish the first blockchain nonprofit in Germany. They spent several months trying to accomplish this task, and after a certain period of time, it became apparent that it was not going to happen. So they ended up establishing their nonprofit in Switzerland. But by virtue of them waiting and holding, the value of those Bitcoin matured dramatically. And so now the Lisk project is sitting on, and I mean these numbers fluctuate so much in the cryptocurrency market, you don't know this, but at the time that this slide was made, $200 million of funding that's in a foundation ready to develop this project. You know, and it's really been an embarrassment of riches. They've gotten Bitcoin Cash for free. They've gotten byte balls for free, all just by virtue of holding the Bitcoin. But luckily for us, they don't get to spend this money. It's already in a foundation. So this money is going to be spent developing this product. And I think this right here is the greatest advantage of any cryptocurrency out there. There's not a single cryptocurrency that is as established with as much funding as this project. And it's not even that they have to spend their own currency, because there are other currencies who have, you know, a lot of, like for example, Ethereum. They have a ton of Ethereum left. But that means spending their own currency in order to get money back. So therefore, saturating their market. Whereas Lisk can just sell Bitcoin in order to get money to fund the platform. Now they do have a significant amount of Lisk also, but they don't plan on touching that until all of their funds are out. And that's basically where Ethereum is now. Their funds are out. They can only spend Ethereum now. They don't have any more Bitcoin from the ICO. So obviously they also keep a significant amount of fiat reserves, which paper money. And basically their team has now grown to over 30 members. And so anyway, at that meetup, they gave a rough development roadmap of the upcoming products. And basically, as you can see, by the end of this year, we're going to have some pretty incredible stuff with this. We're not even 1.0 yet. 0.911 is the version that we're on. So really, we're not even a first major version. This product has so much room to grow. And as you can see, there are a ton of products within the ecosystem. Lisk.js, which is basically a way to communicate with the Lisk API and protocol via JavaScript. Liski, which is a command line interface that allows you to also sort of take advantage of some of those features. The Lisk Core 1.0, which is the official stable version of the platform, also on its way. And they've decided to couple all of these softwares into an entire Lisk desktop and Lisk web app that I assume is going to be coming out on that rebranding date. But there's no official announcement on that. They also have decided to start hiring a lot more developers here. As you can see, the 2 front-end quality assurance, 2 front-end devs, 1 back-end, 5 back-end here, and then 1 software architect and 1 project manager. Now this is just the beginning. They're ultimately going to be filling out an office of probably hundreds of people. They did just move from a office of 30 people to an office of 80 people. I'll give you a little more information about that in just a second. But basically, they're moving extremely fast now that they have the money available. And the last most important thing in the near term is the creation of the science team. Basically, they are going to hire cartographers, mathematicians, and whatnot to ensure that the code that they're writing is effective and efficient, and that the cryptography they're using is safe. And so that's one of the main goals now. And then in a slightly further off term, we have the sidechain tokens. So you'll be able to launch your own ICO on Lisk without interference from the government, because it'll be on a decentralized platform. You'll be able to sell it without a website or anything, because you'll be able to sell it on Lisk for Lisk. And also this will solve a significant amount of issues that other cryptocurrencies don't even know what they're going to do yet. And the majority of ICOs right now are taking place on Ethereum. As you've seen, the Ethereum network is having a significant amount of congestion, even just from one app. So the Lisk solution is to parallelize, in other words, to have side chains. And so the Lisk main chain will always remain pure and only have the most important data point. And then each app will get its own parallelized sidechain. In other words, a blockchain that you can launch on your own, connects to Lisk, and you sold your token for that blockchain, and then you, implement your JavaScript code and you have an app that's tokenized. That's what Lisk is. That's what the goal of Lisk is. And so all these features, to be able to sell your token on the platform, to be able to generate and then sell your token, to be able to launch the sidechain, and also to be able to interact with the features that are going to make this possible. Like you'll be able to attract the people that are going to help secure your network through the platform, and monetize your services. There's a ton of things that they're adding into this, so it's a really broad spectrum. And also, the interesting thing about this is that really any cryptocurrency that's been developed up until this point could be launched as a Lisk sidechain, and therefore that functionality could be assumed into the ecosystem immediately. Like for example, an Ethereum virtual machine could be launched as a sidechain, and therefore all smart contract progress up until this point could be directly connected into the Lisk ecosystem based on a Node.js child process, aka a sidechain. And so it's an interesting approach that does solve the blockchain bloat problem. In other words, the blockchain is becoming so big for Bitcoin and others that it's actually getting away from its decentralized model, because the individual can no longer store the blockchain or download it fast enough to use it. So they have to rely on a copy of it that is trust-based. And so this might help to aid that how we're getting away from decentralization of some of those other ones. Anyway, so they also gave a little bit about the rebranding, and so they've been working with two very important companies in the space, Relevance and Tachyon. And during the strategy phase, they did expert interviews, workshops, which actually I participated in myself, and this was to research what developers and users would want from this platform. So they spent a lot of time deciding how they're going to make a viable model for people to actually want to use this thing. And then they reviewed their strategy with Relevance, and then they passed it out to Tachyon. Tachyon is more of a design agency, and so once Lisk found out what they would do in deciding release schedules and whatnot, they finally went to the design research phase. What is our identity? How do we want to project ourselves? And whatnot. And finally, they've gotten to the point where they're coding the new website, the new logo. The only thing that will not change is the name, but you can expect just about everything about the design and maybe any sort of logo and whatnot to be changed. And so they're basically just coding the website now, and I guess they're also adding whatever pieces they want to announce at the next big event. And so they did, in fact, announce the date of the big event where they're going to release the rebranding, and I expect more news than just rebranding, but we will at least be getting the rebranding on February 20th. But they're designing it to be some sort of keynote event, where Apple type thing, where they release a new iPhone. They want it to be a big deal. It's in a really big hall, so I imagine there's going to be more than just a logo change and whatnot. But stay tuned.
Is it live streamed?
Sorry?
Is it live streamed?
It is. Yeah, you will be able to watch this. Maybe more.
That's good to do that. I saw the website. You could get a little bit more streaming.
streamlined or whatever.
It's, yeah, well, they're basically not gonna try to fix what they have until they just release the whole new everything. So, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, what they had is just kind of,
Yeah.
But anyway, so, shortly after that event, they sent most of the marketing team to the event in Berlin, Tech Disrupt, which is actually a very large conference, and this is very important for Lisk to be at because, frankly, this is very disruptive technology, right? Yeah. So anyway, they had success there, and they apparently plan on doing a much larger presentation at the Tech Disrupt next time. So beyond that, they actually did a year in review video, and I'd like to play it for you all now. And it does kind of reiterate a little bit of information I gave you.
Zoom in on it.
But there's also a lot of great other information here as well.
At the end of 2016, we established the Lisk Foundation in Switzerland, which allowed us to move on with the project, and that's why we also created the Lightwork GmbH here in Berlin in order to employ a full team of experts and talents from all over the world.
At the beginning of this year, we were only a few developers, and since then we scaled quite dramatically.
We grew from 3 people to over 30, and this includes a front-end development team, a back-end development team, a science team, a marketing team, and an operations team. Our current office space is just too small. That's why we are soon moving to a new office in the center of Berlin, in the middle of the business district, which will have enough space to sustain twice as many people as we currently can. In May, we are already moving to another office which will sustain 160 people to work full-time on this project.
In the beginning, Lisk core development was largely handled by myself and a few other developers. Now, in order to scale past those limitations, we needed to hire a lot of people to help with development. And so this year, I largely stepped back from my product lead position of Lisk core in order to help with the hiring process. And now that we've achieved our objectives in terms of team size, I've now stepped back into that role very firmly.
At the beginning of this year, Twitter just consisted of a few thousand followers, and now we have over 110,000 followers active who are following all our news about Lisk. On Reddit, I remember back in the day, early 2017, we just had a few hundred subscribers checking in a few times a day. We have now over 20,000 subscribers which are tuning in daily. It's really cool to see that there are always a few thousand members online, and this just showed how much we grew alone this year. We are now active on 12 online social media channels, and we estimate that our community grew to 150,000 members a year. We created a Meetup culture, which led to 21 meetups organized all over the world in 2017 alone. We here in Berlin organized additionally 6 meetups in order to sophisticate the great Lisk community and the capital of startups in Europe.
That's us.
With a growing team, we work to North America, Europe and Asia in order to promote and market the Lisk project. One of the highlights was definitely our Lisk Asia tour, in which we traveled to China, Korea, Japan and India.
as our project team, Lisk CEO, Max Cordelia.
Hello, my name is Max Cordelia, founder of Lisk and the Lisk Foundation. We organized a meetup in every country we visited. However, in Japan, we actually needed 2 of those because the interest was just so high. Our community is growing so big, and especially our meetups are becoming bigger and bigger, that we need more focus on our events we organize. That's why, coming into the new year, we're going to have a distinctive set of new events planned for beginners, entrepreneurs, and developers, so that we can go deeper into the different topics and concentrate more on what is important for these distinctive user groups. Next year, we will visit Consensus in New York City again, this time with a booth and many more people from the team. The media is now also interested more and more into this project. That's why we were covered on major media news outlets this year, like Nasdaq, CNBC, Forbes, TechCrunch, Hacked, Cointelegraph, and many more.
Since I've put myself back in the driving seat, development progress towards our 1.0 milestone has moved swiftly, forward. As new developers have been added to the team, one thing that I've noticed is that with everyone, no matter their experience level, it's taking at least 1 or 2 months for them to really get fully onboarded and productive. But once that an individual has passed that breaking point, they are then able to contribute far more efficiently to the project. What we're seeing now is the result of the team coming together and gelling towards this common goal of what we're trying to achieve.
As we move on with the Lisk project, its complexity also grows.
With that in mind, we decided to build a science team.
Experts in cryptography and mathematics to join our team in order to ensure that everything runs as it should be. It also gives us confidence into the code we are writing here every day. Another important factor is documentation and technical descriptions in order to make sure that developers who later build on our project always know how to proceed.
The first objectives with the science team are to implement a new address system, a dynamic feed system, and also audit various parts of the existing protocol, so that we can evolve them into a much better place.
First member of our science team is a cryptographer called Ike. He joined just a few weeks ago and kicks off our science team, which will grow to 5 people in total in 2018.
One of the objectives of 1.0 milestone was to replace the current transport layer with a socket-based protocol. And we were researching the various open source libraries available, and we came across one particular one, Socket Cluster. This came across as the strongest choice to go with, in terms of libraries. So we decided to actually sponsor the project, and that has led on to developing a relationship with the author of Socket Cluster, John. And he's now working for us as a full-time as a back-end engineer. He's a really great asset to the team, and it certainly gives us a lot of confidence having the author of this library within the team.
Even though 2017 was a year of preparation, it was already crazy and moving so fast. We were visiting conferences one after another. We were pushing out our software products one after another as well. We introduced even new products, just like Lisk.js and Lisk Nano.
Besides the Lisk Core, Lisk.js, and Liski, we've done a lot of work towards evolving Lisk Nano into a feature complete user interface. Additionally, one of the key things that we're working on this year is the modularization of the Lisk Core.
2017 was the year of preparation, the year of scaling up the Lisk team for us to go with full force, with full power into 2018. Everything will kickstart with our relaunch event on the 20th of February, but thanks to our expanding engineering team, later this year we will see the first Lisk blockchain applications coming to life.
So looking back over this past year, one thing that really comes to mind is how proud I am actually to work alongside such talented individuals. For that reason alone, I'm very much looking forward to what we can achieve going into 2018.
For us, this is just the beginning. 2018 will be even more crazy and even more amazing. 2017 has been a great journey for us here at Lisk HQ. We now step back to spend some time with our friends and family and are looking forward to come back next year.
And in thanks to our community for the ongoing support, we and the whole Lisk team wish you a happy holidays and a happy
See you in January.
All right. So obviously there's a lot of good information in there. I think one important thing to point out is that Lisk has been making, watch out for these recommendations. I don't know what it's his laptop, y'all. I don't know what they've been recommending, you know what I'm saying?
What kind of stuff are you into?
But anyway, the interesting thing is that a lot of these, Lisk is taking their approach is that to partner with these other open source projects. And like they said, they foster a relationship with Socket Cluster, and now Socket Cluster has become basically a dedicated partner to the Lisk network. They basically hired this guy who had the best solution for what they were looking for, and taking this project onto themselves and giving him support. And that's how we're going to continue forward as a market. Because if you have to support the open source projects, because everything else is for greed and profit, and open source is something that we can use as a base and we can all take advantage of. Once Satoshi Nakamoto made Bitcoin, everyone could refork his code and make a new copy of it. And so that's the power of open source. Is that if for example we took offense to specific settings inside of Bitcoin, we could change that. We could relaunch Bitcoin. So it doesn't matter if we trust Satoshi Nakamoto or not, because ultimately the gift he gave us gives him no control over us if we wanted to just reuse what he gave us. So I think that the approach they're taking is going to be the one that's going to cause them to become one of the biggest players. They're going to assume a lot of these really great open source projects, and obviously the funding's there to do this. And so expect Lisk to have a lot of backup. Does anybody have any questions?
Actually, are there any ICOs in the pipeline, or are there any proof of concepts?
There are, and I'm glad you asked that question actually. So, let's see if we can get here for just a second. So, there actually are some, let's see if we can find this.
It's Windows 10, it's evil.
Technical difficulties? Hold on. So, oh, here it is, actually. So first of all, there are some promised projects for Lisk. The functionality is not there yet. There was a working model of Lisk, that's what they sold the ICO based on, was a proof of concept version of Lisk. It's obviously not good enough to go into production, but it was good enough to sell the ICO. And so this is one of the first ones that announced themselves for Lisk. And they are a decentralized organization for musicians, and basically they will allow you to cut out the record industry, publish your own music and prove that it's yours, sell it on your own without any need for Spotify or Apple Music or iTunes or whatever other platform. You can cut out the middleman. You don't have to give 20% to Pandora anymore because you can sell it yourself. And this also gives you the ability to publish your own work, which is really important because there's a lot of theft in artistry. If you put out a piece of work or a poem and you have it properly ascribed into your name, chances are someone will steal those words. And the same thing goes for intellectual properties like music. So I think this is a really interesting project. They have announced that they're going to use Lisk, so we're excited about that one. And then
and is there a rubric that Lisk goes by to vet these ICOs, or can anyone?
No, anybody can launch an ICO on Lisk. It's permissionless, just like any other blockchain. So, but this is one of the first ones that launched, and this one's interesting to say the least. We'll see how it goes, but you'll see a little bit more about it here, how it works. So some information about what their idea is. And basically, this is an entire little ecosystem for artistry to, from sales to protecting your work. So this knowledge in an open source fashion. In other words, it's available for free. Now, they actually have not guaranteed that they're going to be on Lisk yet, but there are so many problems with Ethereum, there's no way. Has to be on it. Has to
At
be
this
on
point,
Lisk.
it's a common sense decision.
These are the only two options, and it's going to have to be Lisk because Ethereum. With Ethereum, you can launch your own token, but the facilitation of the actual app itself, ultimately, you're just selling a token because you're going to make your own blockchain. So Ethereum really right now is just acting as the way to sell your ICO without getting in trouble. So that's a cool one. And then there's also this one, which is actually we support the Delegate Seller Dynamic, which also hosts these events. And this is this is a little bit less of an interesting idea at face value, but here's what this is. Basically, blockchains are a protocol in and of themselves, just like the internet. And when something is a protocol, basically it's its own environment. It doesn't communicate easily with other protocols because it's a strict set of rules. So the idea of an oracle is basically an application that will help get information from outside the blockchain and bring it in. And you might ask, why is this important? Well, the example I've been giving lately is, let's just say maybe you're making a gambling type game. Okay, so this has some regulatory compliance issues, right? If you just wanted to make a gambling game like a fantasy football gambling league or something, you would have to go through all type of red tape. Well, if you launched on a decentralized network, you wouldn't have that issue. But you'd be on a protocol where it'd be difficult to get information from the outside. And so you're going to need this oracle, right? So this oracle is going to fetch that data, like for example with the fantasy football league, the gambling fantasy football league, it's going to still need to get information from the NFL, or the API, player data, all this information, right? So there's going to need to be a link between information outside the blockchain and the blockchain itself. And that's what Oracle is. It aims to be able to provide that service to other applications through its token. They'll be able to pay with the Oracle token to query information from outside the blockchain to apps that are already connected within the Lisk ecosystem. So this is actually a really important service. This is one of the most fundamental things that I think a decentralized application platform will need in order to work.
Sort of like a scraper, scrape for information that.
It would scrape APIs and whatnot. And I mean, based on like something like this, when it's a game or like a gambling platform, something like a fantasy football thing, there's certain, like, obviously you're not going to trust the NFL for all your financial data. But when you're playing in like a game or a league and you're betting, you can assume that the NFL is probably not going to falsify the data, and so you could rely on that in a microcosm with the amount of money you put into it. And that's kind of how some of the decentralized applications are going to work. They're going to mainly just take advantage of some of the things that blockchain offers and not necessarily have all these things. Like for example, a blockchain-based application will have 100% uptime. That in and of itself is an impressive feat, right? I mean, just for your favorite website to be up 100% of the time guaranteed, that's already impressive. And then obviously the security and immutability features also give distinct advantage. But really just even uptime I think is enough for enterprise to say, hey, we should use this type of distributed approach. So yeah, there's just really a lot of use cases to explore here, and these are just a few of them that have been presented so far. I think a lot of people are keeping their ideas to themselves because they don't want them stolen, because they don't have a way to publish them to the blockchain yet. So, any more questions?
You should tell them how to get Oracle.
So you can get Oracle for free actually if you have Lisk. The way it works is that you can vote with Lisk. You use Lisk to choose the 101 block validators for the network. And the reason that is important is because proof of stake, which is the algorithm that many other coins are using, which you mint coins instead of mine, is a good idea, but unfortunately it's not scalable. When you have people using their cell phones to mint coins and all these different coins, and everyone has the opportunity to actually generate the blocks, then that becomes extremely inefficient. There's just too much latency in between all the connections. So instead, you empower the holders by giving them a vote with each one of their coins to choose who are the best contributors to the network. Now, for an attractive person to vote for or delegate to vote for would probably share a certain amount back to you of their reward, contribute to projects, and donate, to worthy community members. That's how you add value to the ecosystem. Is or if you have a lot of Lisk, you're going to want to donate a little to worthy projects so that they can add value to the ecosystem. Basically, Lisk is sort of like a decentralized autonomous organization on its own. Basically, it sort of gives opportunities, and so really, it's really just a very advantageous platform to get into. And as far as getting the Moracle token, you can, if you vote for the specific delegate stellar dynamic, that's the benefit that you're going to get. You're going to get free Moracle tokens. And so a lot of these delegates are going to start making offers like this. But just the problem is the software isn't developed enough where developers can come in and actually offer something. So as these side chains develop, as all these ideas are finished, people will be able to come in, offer their idea like Moracle, and possibly become voted on and become a delegate for the network that secures the network. And I'm assuming they will probably have to give out certain amounts or share certain amounts back in order to receive those. And that's what the economy does. It decides how much the delegates have to give, and that's the balance of it all. Any other question?
Yeah, would the Lisk have to be deposited or is held in a specific wallet to get the airdrop of
No, you don't have to deposit anything. What you basically get 101 votes that are entirely liquid. In other words, you can change them at any time. And so if you just voted for in this case, the offer is to vote for the stellar dynamic delegate. That's one of the 101 that are currently processing the blocks for the network. If you do approve that delegate with one of your 101 votes, then based on how much your vote is worth and how many lists you have, you're going to get a proportional reward in the vote. So now the side chains aren't alive yet, so they're just calculating it in like sort of like a pre-distribution. But that's the thing about it, is that instead of doing an ICO where they're going to sell it, they're just going to distribute it to the people who are voting for free. So they're sort of like giving value to the people who hold Lisk and also adding value to the ecosystem.
And the side chains would have to be just launched or executed to be able to receive the Moracle.
In order to actually distribute the tokens, right, they're going to have to be able to launch the actual token on the blockchain, which we don't have that functionality yet. But the fact of the matter is you can do a lot of work, pre-work on getting your application ready. It's just JavaScript and Node.js that this is based on. That's the other reason why Lisk is probably the most optimistic outlook in my opinion, in cryptocurrency, is because it has harnessed the power of JavaScript, which is the most widespread language in the world. And also, it sort of has the sidechain functionality natively based into it because JavaScript has Node.js, which can launch child processes, and that's exactly what the sidechains are. They're literally a Node.js child process that can communicate with the main Lisk blockchain, but never is affected by it. So there's no, if for some reason one or the other chains were having an issue, it would not affect the other. So, and also the chains themselves are voluntarily hosted, so they don't add any additional bloat to the Lisk main chain. So yeah, I mean, a lot of advantages.
And in this case, just as Stellar Dynamic was the delegate, would they host the sidechain if they're the ones that are wanting to distribute Moracle? Or is that
they're just donating to the project for its development. And so basically Moracle, the developers who are working on Moracle already have a proof of concept. They already have a working prototype. So that's kind of like gives you okay, these guys know what they're doing. They have a working product. It's not based on this, it's based on Tendermint, which doesn't have a token at all, but it works. And so that's why they've been supported by the community at large, mostly because they basically have proven that they can get it done. All right, let's party.